So our topic this month is listen, and today our theme is listen up. And I thought about this a lot this week. What does that mean to listen up? And some of us might remember kind of the negative connotation of it, or if you want to call it that, when somebody, you say something like to your parents and they're like, listen up, listen up. And then they tell you, or whoever tells you what they think that, you ought to be doing or whatever. But I'm not thinking about that, really. I'm thinking more of listening up. Listening up. Like, I think that's one of the things that would probably help the most in stopping the wars within ourselves and with each other, is if we could really actually listen to what somebody was actually not saying necessarily, but what they were really saying, like really hearing what they're saying. Sometimes people say things and they cry out because they just want to be listened to. People just want to be heard. Sometimes people do things that aren't so nice because they just want to be heard. And they don't know how else to do it. They don't know what else to do besides to strike out. And I know I've been in that position where somebody says something to me and like my trigger, it hits a trigger in me and I don't even hear what they're saying necessarily. I really only hear what I heard coming from where I am. And that's the truth of it too. When we listen, we are only listening from where we're at. We can only hear what our beliefs are and our consciousness knows. Somebody could be saying something and it has a completely different meaning, but because we are, our consciousness is in this certain place, we hear it wherever our consciousness is. So it's like whatever you're hearing is because of what you are believing. And if you go back and back and back and back, you'll find that maybe when you were a child, you had some sort of collapse of a belief, like somebody said something to you. I think I talked about this last week. And then you carried it forward and you just reacted to everything from that place. So what does it mean to listen up? To me, it means to truly, truly get all of that out of the way. And the only way I know how to do that is through self-love and through compassion for others, but I can't have compassion for others if I don't have compassion for myself. So the more I can just let go of all that stuff that might have happened to me or that I think, I learned and I'm carrying it forward and I don't even know. Like I was thinking about my life, like I was talking to Sue Buckley because I just wrote this book and she's proofing it for me about things that were said to me as a child that I carried forward. And I didn't even know at the time I was doing it. Like, I didn't know that I could think consciously. I just lived my life. And I know people that are sitting here are very conscious people. At least I believe you wouldn't be sitting here if you weren't. That like, when you're thinking and what you're thinking and how that affects you. Because it sounds really cerebral, but it's really not. It's all we have. All we have is our minds and our consciousness to move our lives. We can move the pieces in the outside world and try to fix things and all of that, but in true reality, if we don't have it in our minds, if we don't think that way, if we don't give ourselves over to that higher way of thinking from love and compassion, especially for ourselves to begin with, then we can move all the pieces in the world of form that we want to, and nothing, it'll happen, but then it will go back to what it was because we didn't change our consciousness. So for me, the only way to really, really make a change in the world, make a change, is to start with ourselves, like Glenn said, stop the wars inside, whatever those are. And any war inside would be anything that's telling you that you're less than what you are, because you're so magnificent. We're so magnificent. We have everything in our cells and our DNA, like Reverend Diane read in that quote, that we have this perfect assimilation and elimination process that we've been given within our bodies that will like eliminate anything that doesn't serve us and assimilate the things that we need. It's just like we didn't come to earth without these things. We weren't just dropped here to figure it out. We have it. We already have it. We just have to open up to it. That's why I feel like this teaching and teachings that teach us or help us to learn how to think, not what to think, but how to think, are so powerful at a time like this. To know that we have the power to think those thoughts, those beliefs, and clear out all those beliefs that don't serve us anymore. And I know it is possible because I've done it. But sometimes, but you hate it when I use that word. See, I caught myself, but it's true. Oh my God. It's all right. Anyway, I don't even know what I was going to say now. You got me all off track. So it doesn't really matter. And whatever. Okay, so let me see. I shouldn't have looked at you. Okay, so that's Bob, in case you know what I mean. He always comes up to me after I talk and tells me I shouldn't use the word but. And he's right. But what buts are in the way? I guess we have to look at what buts are in our way for saying that we can't make these changes. We say, yeah, but your butt's in the way of saying, I can't make this change because but I had this thing happen to me when I was a kid, and I'm not going to just let that go. I'm just going to keep that going because it's serving me so wonderfully right now. So I know it's possible because I do it. I do it every day. And it doesn't, and that was my butt. It doesn't, sometimes you end up going back. You go, oh, I thought that I had that. I call it the rising corpse. I thought I already canceled. Remember in the movies when you think the person's dead and the heroine or hero is like, oh my God, he's dead, and all of a sudden the person rises up with something worse than before. Well, I don't even know. I looked it up to see if it was really a term, and it's not, but I call it the rising corpse. It's when you think it's dead. You think it's dead, and it's not, and it's rising up, but not in a good way. I mean, Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead, and that was a good thing, apparently. But I'm talking about those things you think you're over, and then something happens, and you say, oh, I didn't know that was still there. But the thing is, you notice it. That's the whole thing. You notice it. Whereas before, you might not have noticed it. You might have it just might have glossed over, and you just kept going, and you kept going down that path. But now you notice it. Do you know that awareness is the biggest, most beautiful thing for transformation, is when we're aware of what we're thinking? There's a Joe Dispenza meditation, and I'm sorry, I like Joe Dispenza, some people don't, but because he makes a lot of money. Oh, wow, isn't that awful? Okay, so he has a meditation where you have to bring up all the things you don't want to think anymore. And then you say, I'm going to be aware of this when it comes up. And when it comes up, I'm going to be aware of it. And I think that's really important because things do come up in your mind, and if you're not aware of them, you're just going to go down that road with, whatever conversation you're having, whatever, and just not even know. So being aware of it is like the first step. And then the second step is to shift it. Do you know that we have a system within us? Have you ever done this? Everybody does it, right? It's an actual system in our consciousness, in our body, that allows us to recalibrate. So when you do that, like Patrick's always calls me what do you call me, a blowhole dolphin or something? It's like, why are you doing that? Now I realize why I'm doing it. Every time, dolphin, he thinks I'm a dolphin. Dolphins do that. Anyway, so when you do that, when you do that, you're doing it unconsciously a lot of the time, and it's actually your body recalibrating. Something's happening that's stressing you out or something, and you go, like that. That's what it is. And when you know that that's what it is, you can actually use it because you can actually do it yourself consciously. You can actually take that breath before reacting and recalibrate and come from a higher place, from a higher listening place. So take that tool with you. If you don't already, you do it. But because it's really helped me a lot. Because there's a lot of times when I just want to I just want to say that, and then I'll just go, okay, I can think from a higher place right now, and that's going to really help this conversation or help what I'm hearing right now so I don't go off the deep end with it. So these are all powerful tools that we have, and it's time to use them. It's time to bring peace to the earth, but we can't bring peace to the earth if we don't have peace in here. So listening up, and then it's like listening to your intuition. Like, what is it really telling you? Do you really even feel like you have intuition? Some people are like, well, I don't know if I'm in touch with my intuition. I don't know, what it's telling me or whatever, but you do, because your intuition will always tell you something helpful. It'll always tell you something. It's not going to be telling you to do something yucky. It's going to be telling you something helpful. And I know a lot of my life was spent not listening to that. And thank God that we're guided and protected and directed for the most part, that when we get off, like when we take a left turn with our lives, we'll end up back where we need to be. Mine was always theater, because theater always brought me to where I needed to be and where I would meet the right people. And when I was in college, I was in my 30s, because I went to college later and I was married already and everything. And I remember, and I might have told this story before, and if I did, forgive me, I was walking down the UNM campus and I was trying to decide if I was going to take the safe route and become a teacher, or whether I was going to actually go for it and become an actress. And I remember distinctly, I didn't know that was my intuition telling me, but I could feel it in my gut, but I didn't know, and I took the safe route. Now, my life turned out fine, but I took a lot of right turns and left turns and all these turns, and I go, well, who knows what would have happened if you'd taken that route? I don't know, but that's the good thing about life. It always brings you back to where you need to be. And theater would come up into my life. It brought me to this teaching. Theater would come up, and I would be somewhere, and then that was where I would find the next thing. I met him through theater. It's just like, that was my thing. And I couldn't get away from it. So when I talk to my kids, like my son, I go, you'll go back to it someday, because you will go back to it someday, because it is in you. But you're not ready now, so that's fine too. So, intuition. So let's just, take that time to listen, take that time to take a breath, and just know that, you're being guided, you're being guarded, you're being directed, you're being protected. That's part of my treatment every day, that I'm guided, I'm guarded, I'm protected, I'm directed all the time by that higher place within myself. And Kyle, you can come up, because I'm almost done, and Lois, because I want to go right into the song. That everything's there for us, and we have the opportunity to listen. We have the opportunity to follow what we listen, to get all those other little extraneous things out of the way that are stopping us from really hearing what's being said to us, and for trusting it and allowing it to move through our life and allow ourselves to have the most powerful, beautiful, amazing lives possible. So just take a deep breath and listen. And as the Dalai Lama said, as you breathe in, cherish yourself. As you breathe out, cherish all beings. Breathe in, breathe out.